Hey, Chris.
Hey,
Okay, am I clicking the right things here?
yeah,
Do I sound okay? Can you hear me all right?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
How are
How
you?
are you? I'm good. I'm good. We're uh, we're creeping towards 100 degrees here in Houston, so fans ablaze and air conditioners going at full blast.
Oh, you don't live in LA anymore?
No, I live in Houston now.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So I could just jump around then before getting to Fire Emblem with your career so far.
Sure. I'm happy to jump wherever.
Also, I know in terms of voiceover, was your first anime PaniPoni Dash?
No, that was one of the earlier ones though. The first one I ever did was one called Ghost Stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the craziest thing because I had never done it before. So there was a big learning curve. Um, I had never, I was used to doing theater, first of all. So I'm used to like 6 weeks or whatever of rehearsal but doing anime, you just show up. You don't know who you're playing.
Right.
And having the monitor here with the anime and the monitor here with the script and like Japanese in one ear and the director in the other ear, and they're just like, and go. Like it was crazy. But that show, it kind of like it threw me for a loop because I thought this was what it was.
Mhm.
And I found out after doing a few more titles that like, oh no, no, no. This was a special one, this Ghost Stories.
Yeah.
I had no idea it's become kind of a like a cult thing now.
Hmm.
People really, and I'm so glad because Stephen Foster, who directed it, he just made that whole thing so much fun, and just he let me just improvise. And um, I remember I even had a line that was like, I know it's like I'm a construction worker and I push some guy out of the way, and I say, I know Jim Adler's your brother-in-law, but why didn't you move? And like in retrospect, I'm like, why? That Jim Adler is a local Texas like injury attorney. Like, who's gonna know that? But it didn't matter. It was just like it was just whatever on that show. So that was my first one.
Okay.
And then yeah, Penny Pony Dash was I think that was Stephen Foster as well that directed that. But yeah,
Well, because that would have been your first more central character then too.
yeah, totally. That was the first like recurring role. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've played several shows where it was just like, come on and do this guy with one line and this background actor and all that. So yeah, yeah, and that was a fun show too.
Mhm.
That was one of those where everyone else like did their recording before I did, so it made it a little easier because I wasn't acting to Japanese, which I don't understand. Everyone else had dubbed theirs already, so and they were all people that I recognized, and some of them I was friends with.
Yeah.
So that was fun. It made it a lot more fun and easy.
And was Tokyo Majin was a little bit later on.
Yes, yeah. When they cast me in that one, they were like, "Okay, Brandon, we're gonna give you like a lead role." I was like, "Oh, great!" I was so excited. And of course, I'm starving artist. I'm like seeing dollar signs. Okay, here we go. Uh, and so I find out that I'm like, it's like me and David Wald, who played my friend. I forget the names. I know I was Tatsuma, but turns out he's the loudmouth who does all the talking, and I'm the quiet guy. So even though I was a series regular, like a lead in that show, it was like coming in to do just a side character. Because like, I'd be like, okay, let's do episode 5. Like, okay, what do you have? What are my lines? They're like, oh, you just go, hmm, like in scene 4.
Mhm.
Okay, I can do that. Well, what else? Like, that's it for that episode. you know? Whereas David like worked like just ran his mouth in like every scene. But so that show I had to watch later because like I barely even got to know the story as I was doing it.
Mhm.
Because if you're not talking in a scene, you don't see it till it comes out, you know.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, that's a fun one to have done um, because it's one of those that people recognize, and that's always fun for actors to be like, hey, I remember that.
Do you think that you have a personal preference for doing more darker series like that?
I certainly like digging into like darker stuff, but if I have to admit, I just err towards comedy. Like
Mm.
if we can make it light and fun, let's do that. You know, if I ever have the choice, like
Yeah.
let's go funny. You know,
Well, most of the other anime you worked on were more serious, like Devil May Cry and
May cry, right?
like
Yes,
that.
yeah. A PaniPoni Dash was certainly not. That was more comical. But yeah, I dig it all,
Mm.
but I think it's just like as we as actors, we just kind of have our sort of essence and our just way of being, that we kind of can't get past to some degree.
Yeah.
And I just think people are always like, "You're so funny," "You're goofy," So I just have to kind of lean into it and just know my lane.
Yeah.
You hmm
So I know when you got to LA that Ben Pronsky got you into the voiceover scene there.
Yes. Oh yeah, Ben. Yeah, I had known Ben. I didn't know him from Houston, even though he's from Houston.
Yeah.
And weird factoid, I heard him say in an interview he did with somebody that like he is like the descendant of like the people who founded Houston. Like
Oh.
some, it's really cool. But I got to know Ben out there in LA because he heard that I was editing like demo reels for actors. It was a little side job I was doing. And so I edited his demo, and he had some really cool stuff. He was like in Ray with Jamie Foxx, and really cool stuff. And so we became like acquaintances. And I had been out there a while, and I got in a like a scooter, like a Vespa accident.
Oh.
And I was kind of laid out for a couple of months and on a walker and all that. And I just thought, when I get back into acting, like obviously voiceover is going to be something I can hobble into a booth and go do. And who do I know out here that's really doing voiceover? And oh, Ben. So had lunch with him and picked his brain, and I hadn't spoken to him in years and realized, wow, like Ben is like at the forefront of like the LA voiceover scene, and he had recently started being the owner and the head of the Voice Actors Network, which is just like it's like the premier place to go do workshops and meet people. And so I fell in love with that scene, and I really actually miss that crowd not being in LA anymore, um, because I come from Houston, and I had done a lot of theater here, and am getting back into that scene now. But there's a certain kind of lack of that typical kind of ego and that competitiveness that just you that's just kind of in the acting scene.
Mhm.
I'd go out for a lot of commercials in LA, and there you got two things to do at the audition. You got to do good in the audition, and you have to survive the sort of weird waiting room psych out game, because there's always some weird people in there doing things trying to, I don't know, like it was just kind of gross.
Yeah.
But the voiceover community there's like none of that. It's kind of like the theater crowd here. They just people who just love what they're doing and are okay with like not necessarily being famous. They're in it for the work, and so that was a great place to kind of make friends, and it led to work. And so yeah, I just saw Ben put um, he built like a voiceover studio in his Burbank house,
Yeah.
and he lives like right under that Burbank Airport flight path. So he's got
Oh.
planes going like right over, just couple hundred feet up, and I think he's got like 10 inches of concrete, and then like an air gap, and then like 10 more inches of concrete in this to make this room like sealed off from the world. We all have home studios now, so we've all become, voice, whatever, sound engineers, and
Yeah.
I have deep respect for that kind of soundproofing, because it's difficult to achieve.
Right.
Hmm
So while you were in LA, did you get into SAG?
I did, yeah. I ended up just doing a commercial, and nobody, with the way it works with SAG is you can be a non-SAG member but work a SAG union job
Right.
for so many times until like, okay, now you have to join.
Yep.
So I just hit that limit, and I was like, okay, I better join just to be safe. It wasn't no fanfare, nothing like that. I was just like, okay, got to do that now, you
Mhm.
know. I kind of avoided it as long as I could because it's bad for the union, and it's just it's not good news really for actors, but just things have gone so non-union that
Yeah.
I was just trying to get as much of that work as I could, while I could.
Mhm.
Yeah, but proud member.
While you were in LA, was the kind of voice work you were primarily doing, was it on commercial stuff, or were you doing a lot of character stuff too?
I'm still trying to get my head around the commercial thing. But no, mostly video games.
Yeah.
That's what I did out there. And that's just where I feel really most comfortable. It's much easier for me to lean into something like that. Whereas in a commercial, it's like just be yourself. Just talk with your natural, authentic voice. And I'm like, what's that? I don't know what that is. And yeah, I would certainly like to do more commercials because they pay very well,
Mhm.
especially those side ones. Yeah.
Well, I know before Fire Emblem, you had Arena of Valor, which is a more like prettier anime style
Yes.
character.
Yes. Yeah. What was really fun about that was the director, Michael Sorich, who
Yeah.
I believe you interviewed. Gosh, that guy is so much fun to work with.
Yeah.
He is a constant riot, just the entire time. I've never seen him off. He's always on and just hilarious.
Mhm.
So like, oftentimes I'll book a job and I have no idea who the director is. Like if it's Arena of Valor, I know it's him, but occasionally like, hey, I just hear him on my headphones and it's like I know it's going to be a good session. Yeah. And that was one of those that was kind of fun and easy because I didn't have to do a lot of screaming or like, really play. I just kind of played like me, but with a snarky little attitude, you
Yeah.
know. Hmm.
What do you think in general is the case where you've had to alter your voice the most so far?
Oh my gosh. Um, I did. I think I've had to alter my, but like I did the Vendomatic 2000. That's one of the most fun things I did in Wasteland 3.
Yeah.
It's like a that post-apocalyptic game, and I'm like a vending machine, and the breakdown of the character was like, it's a vending machine, it's a robot, but we want him to sound sort of like a 1900s like carnival barker.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of hobbled together this voice, and I think what we ended up doing in the booth was different than what I auditioned with, but that was just fun. Anything kind of like old-timey like that. You kind of get to, do a bad impression of an old black and white movie actor or something. That's always fun. I think the most like stretching in terms of like I had to recover from doing the game Chivalry 2.
Oh.
I screamed so hard in that one. Like I literally started losing my voice at the very end of the session, and we
Mhm.
we barely finished. And it was one of those like I had heard tell of this, but I hadn't experienced it until now, like where you taste blood.
Live.
Just and it kind of really scared me off. Like, okay, I need to be more aware of this. But that was the first job I had done in my own home studio, live, and so I was super nervous. And being nervous, you don't. It puts your voice in the worst possible place
Yeah.
to perform well and for a long time because you get all tight and up here.
Mhm.
So it was a fun job, but yeah, that took it out of me. I had like 2 weeks took me to recover from that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Well, when did you move back to Texas then?
I moved back to Texas at the end of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, and I went and I kind of just took a year kind of in the wilderness. I grew up in Houston, and my family they come from like northeast Texas. So my parents grew up in rural Texas. but they raised me here, and so I'm a city kid at heart. But I I left Texas. The pandemic just kind of like just really was a big life-changing thing. So I came home to spend some time with my family that I hadn't really seen in a long time. And my mom went through some health issues and stuff, so I came to like take care of her. But then she got better, which was great. And so I spent a year out there in Burton, Texas, which is right smack dab between Houston and Austin, in this beautiful hill country. Not it's not the hill country of Texas, but it's where the hills start.
Mhm.
Houston's super flat, and it's like right where it starts to get pretty. And so it was nice, like to just go out there, and I had my little booth, and they have a barn out there, so I made a booth in the barn, and got to just keep doing voices to kind of sustain me through that year,
Mhm.
and then it was kind of a choice: do I go back to LA or do I go back home to Houston? And a couple of people just kind of had some little opportunities here in Houston, and so I was like, let's go home. So I think I made the right move. It's been really great so far.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I know there's a handful of people based in Texas who are also in Fire Emblem Heroes. So, how
yeah.
did your audition come about?
I got that audition through my LA voiceover agent through Vox.
Yeah.
Yeah, hmm yeah. They're the only people I get like video game auditions through. Everybody else, I have a couple other agents around the country, but they're all commercials, you know.
Mhm.
But who else do you know off the top of your head, like what Texas actors are in
Oh,
this?
Monica Rial, David Matranga,
Okay,
um,
yeah,
Christopher Sabat is in Fire Emblem.
okay. I know
There's
David.
yeah,
Nice.
there's just a small handful of them that are in in Texas in the game too, but I think they all have LA agents, so that's why.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I've seen David a few times since I've been back in recent months, and he just did an amazing play. He was the lead in this really great, I think it was a world premiere play called American, Kin. It
Oh,
was really, really heavy stuff, but man, it was insane.
mhm.
So good. He's a
Yeah.
good actor.
Mhm.
Hmm
And I know with how tragic and dark Orson is, could you relate to anything about him?
Um, you know, stuff like that. It's like, thank God I've never had to go through. I mean, I mean, thank God I've never had to resuscitate my corpse wife, and
Yeah.
like I'm trying to think of like I was trying to think of like a movie equivalent of that. Is like
Pet
almost like
Cemetery.
Psycho. Sorry,
Pet Cemetery.
Pet Cemetery. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Or even like there's something like Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho about it.
Hmm.
Hello, mother. Uh, but that was another one of those where it was like, okay, I have to admit I'd never played the game. I knew nothing about it, and they're just like, okay, this is a kind of a special role. This is a kind of a fan favorite role, and it hasn't come back in a while.
Yeah.
And they told me like what he's going through, and I was like, oh wow, okay. So it was just one of those where you just roll your sleeves up and try to jump as far into it as you can with very little preparation. Pretty quickly in that session, I think I found an emotional kind of thread, and I just kind of kept following that um, with their guidance. You rely a lot on the directors just to help you stay in the lane because you're showing up, you don't know what it is, and you just kind of trust that they're gonna keep you on the right track. But it
That
really
was
was a fun role to do.
yeah. Was that Patrick Seitz directing you?
Yeah, it was. I
Yep.
believe so. Yeah, and I remember they were really cool people who were like on the engineer side too. I have to look. I write the stuff down on a spreadsheet, but I'm bad because I'm bad with names.
Mhm.
But that was just a cool group to work with.
Do you
And
have a, from what you can remember, is there like a favorite line that you had?
I remember more the visceral feeling of doing it than the
Right.
lines. You know, I remember I was trying to kind of take it as down into my core as possible, to
Hmm.
come from as far down as possible, because I felt like that, I was trying to find the depths of the guy, So I was just trying to go as deep physically, you
Yeah.
know, almost like a trick, to kind of get you into it, but it's also a it's also a healthy place to have the voice come from, as opposed to Chivalry 2, where I blew my tonsils out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the darkest headspace you've had to go for voiceover?
Mm, yeah. There's probably others that I can't think of at the moment, but yeah, it doesn't get much darker than that,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Even sometimes doing a little one-off character in an anime, you come in and it's like, okay, what? Whoa, okay. So you bring it all to this guy in the background who's like, about to get blown up or something. Um, but yeah, that's about as dark as it's gotten.
Yeah, I don't even know if you're aware, like if you've looked it up or anything, but the general consensus of fan following, and I can say too that your performance as Orson is one of the best, some of the best acting in the game.
Dude, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's very nice to hear. I didn't know that. That's cool. I'm you know I really just wanted to give them what they asked for. So
Mhm.
that's very nice to hear. Thank you. And I think a lot of credit is to the creation of the character too.
Yeah.
Um, because when I show up, I I'm I think of this kind of acting is more just like you're more like a craftsman instead of an artist. Like the
Mhm.
artists have done so much work to build this thing, and I come in and it's like blueprints, and now
Yeah.
my job is to build the thing. But that's nice to hear. That's really cool.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of um, feedback in, as far as I can tell, in voiceover. It's one of the reasons we all keep going back to theater, because at least you get some feedback, and you see people afterwards, and you hear them laugh if it's funny. But that's
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Well, that's what I think a lot of people too find really interesting about the fallen or evil versions of characters because their conviction for doing what they're doing is so more interesting than just a normal like happier character.
Totally right. And I mean, we've seen the sort of renaissance of sort of anti-hero kind of, the like Walter White. These
Yeah.
are our heroes now, and yeah, to play something so dark, but that comes from a genuine place where you can completely justify it. You know, that's always like really fun and kind of rare, to do,
Mhm.
for at least in my case. But yeah, yeah, those are really fun roles because you can just yeah really sink your teeth into them.
Mhm. Especially some of the lines, where he's talking about Monica's birthday and then he got you a present and it's just so
Yeah,
chilling.
talking to her, I remember
Yeah.
those lines, like just like yeah, yeah, creepy.
Well, I know you got to do another pretty. It's not like that to a quite a degree, but you got to do another villainous character in Final Fantasy.
Yes,
Ray
yes.
Ryu, yeah,
Very, yes, yeah, yeah, that's a cool one. And we did like a Halloween, like I don't know if it was like a skin or it was a special thing, episode in the game terminology. But yeah, that was cool. Where I was sort of like a zombie.
yeah.
Um, yeah, 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 that was cool.
So, since you've been back in Texas too, have you gotten a chance to get back into anime at all?
Yeah, it's been so long since I worked there. Like, a lot of the people that I was working with, because it's all about the directors,
Yeah.
they're the people calling you and casting you, and I think pretty much all of those people don't work there anymore. So,
Mhm.
um, but I have some very good friends who work there quite a bit, and they were well, Andrew Love. Do you know Andrew
Yeah.
Love? Or yeah, and he's a very good friend. And he just said, "Hey man, just come by. I'm gonna go do a session, hang out in the lobby. I'll introduce you to some people." And he did. And so I have gotten to do a couple things over there. A show that I think is just coming out or just came out.
Yeah.
Shinwei. Yeah. Do you know how to say it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I've
Shenmue.
only seen it written down.
It's Shenmue.
Shenmue. Thank you. Sorry. But yeah, I played an older guy in that one. Yolanda Zul. Yolanda.
Okay.
Terrible with names. Uh, yeah, but that was a cool character. He's like this older dude in a wheelchair,
Hmm.
who's just like, you know, kind of like I thought of him as like almost like Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
He's frail and old, but then he's a badass when he needs to be.
Hmm.
You know. Hmm.
I know that Austin Tyndall is the lead in that show too. Do you know him at all?
Don't
Okay.
no, no, I don't know that guy. Yeah, coming back to Houston has been interesting because I spent 11 years in LA, and I've got a lot of old friends here who are still around, but it's a totally different scene in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
ADV is now Sentai,
Right.
and all these theaters that I was, you know, working at or going to see shows that like they're all like bigger, better. Full, and there's more actors around. It's just it's cool. Like Houston's a really exciting scene right now.
Well, who are you personally closest to in the VO community there?
Andrew Love, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, yeah. We were roommates in college, and yeah, we really picked our friendship back up big time when I moved back.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's been just the best friend, and yeah, he's got a great wife, and his little daughter is just the cutest little kid ever. We just had coffee today, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a friend like him was like kind of really the reason I moved back, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
too. It wasn't just him helping me out and getting me some work, but just yeah, just kind of one of those. This pandemic has just made us all reevaluate what's important to us,
Yeah.
you know, and that was just one of those things. Like, no, I want to, yeah, I want to go be with friends like that, you know.
Mhm.
There's a lot of great people in LA, but yeah. But what were you gonna ask? Sorry.
Oh, just what kind of acting work have you been doing lately then?
I just did a play. It's called Gloria. We did it at a theater here called the Fourth Wall Theater Company, and it was really interesting. I would tell you more about it, but I wouldn't want to spoil it for any of your viewers or listeners who might see it put up somewhere, because to talk about the plot is to ruin it all. But it's a really interesting kind of office comedy that takes place in the 2000 teens in New York in a magazine, and it's this sort of biting satirical office comedy until it's very much not, and then it's kind of like how do all the characters then grapple with this new world,
Yeah.
you know. I just had a really fun part in it where I got to basically have a complete nervous breakdown on stage every night, and that was just fun.
Yeah.
I really love that kind of stuff. We were all of us in the cast who have been around, or some of us the older folks here in Houston. I consider myself one of those now. Um, we were so excited to work with the guy who directed it, who's basically everyone's favorite actor slash director in town. This dude James Black. He actually has there is I forget the date. I have to look it up. It's in my iCal, but the mayor of Houston proclaimed one of the days of the year James Black Day,
Wow.
because he's such an institution in town,
Yeah.
and that was to get to work with him again was like it was a dream.
Hmm.
So that was really cool, and it had been a while since I'd done a play, and I was not prepared for what I used to feel at the end of every show I've ever done, going back to school. I would get the post-show blues big time because you know you become a part of this family and you meet every day and you go through this thing every day, and then boom, no more, you know. And boy, I felt the post-show blues big time on this one, but you know that's why we auditioned for the next
Yeah.
one.
So before my final question, if I typed out a line in chat from Orson, could you do that for the subreddit?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I'm using my good mic today, so I got to get close to it. All right. Get out. This is Monica in my place. I will not have my home disturbed by anyone.
There we go.
In the ballpark, I guess.
Yeah, thank
Hope
you.
I didn't, hope I didn't blow the mic out.
Oh no, that was good.
Right on.
So my final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy. Oh man, I don't think in terms of legacy. No, I guess I really just I would like to. Well, I always want to be known as someone who is reliable and a team player, um, who doesn't bring like an unhealthy amount of ego to the
Yeah.
job, who gives, you know, and and shares in the collaborative process of play or you know, VO or whatever. And you know, like I say, I like playing other people, so I guess I I would like to be known as the kind of actor who could like play anybody. Gary Oldman is my hero and the hero of so many actors. It's just cliche to say, you know, he's my favorite, but he really is, you know, and that kind of, you know, I'd like to be the Gary Oldman of Houston, Texas. Yeah, just to have that kind of range and just you know, respect
Mhm.
in the community. And honestly, I've always said I've never had any desire to be famous, but I would like to be uber famous within the industry. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah, that's my kind of fame. Just where people know they can call you and, you know, and you'll bring whatever they need.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Well, thank you.
That's a really long answer.
No, it's okay.
It's gonna be a lot to fit on a tombstone. Jeez.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Well, it was a real pleasure. Thank you,
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah. You're one of the whole community's like favorite actors and heroes.
That made my day. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, have a good rest of your night then.
Awesome. You as well. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.